Hello and welcome to Kopites Calling with Dave and Nick. Today we're going to be taking a look at the FA Cup fifth round matchup between Liverpool and Southampton. It took place at Anfield in Liverpool, England, and I think the first thing we're going to do is dive right into this thing and there were six changes from the Liverpool squad that faced Chelsea in the Carabao Cup final on Sunday. Nick, what kind of lineup did Jurgen Klopp throw out there today?
Yeah, Dave, just going into the lineup, traditional 4-3-3, but to your point, they did make six changes. So starting from the back, we had Kelleher keep his position from the Carabao Cup final on Sunday. Then the center back pairing was Van Dijk and Kwanzaa. Right back, Connor Bradley. So again, same starter from the Cup final on Sunday. Samikas on the left. Then you get into the midfield, which was a little odd, but I think it's something we maybe expected for this type of competition. And considering the tired legs, it was Bobby Clark, James McConnell, and Joe Gomez in the midfield. And then you move up to the front three. Again, a little bit of a makeshift front three. Harvey Elliott on the right, Cody Gagpo through the middle, and Louis Kumis on the left. So six changes. As you can see, it was very much a makeshift 11, considering the tired legs from the Carabao Cup final and the injuries.
You know, the injuries just continue. It's amazing to me, Nick, that this kind of just continues to happen. Endo's the latest. He has an ankle injury. We saw what happened to Gravenberg on Sunday, but Endo is the latest. And if I counted the injured players, there were 13 on the injured list. 10 of those are what you would probably say are starters for us. You can't really say that Gravenberg is or whatever, Thiago, these kind of players, you can't really say they are starters, but we had 10 starters that are injured. And then the other thing that stood out to me, Nick, was Kumis. Who is this guy? He's 18 years old. Um, I don't know. The academy is doing something right.
Yeah, no, I mean, to echo that point, I mean, I think this year we've seen more from academy players than I've seen in the past couple of years under Klopp. And that's not denying what the academy player is capable of, but I think we've seen this academy this year specifically when they've been called upon, they've answered and then some. So I think with Kumis, of course, being brought into the lineup, I didn't know what to expect. I'm sure you didn't know what to expect, Dave, but it ended up working out wholeheartedly. I mean, again, it goes back to what we were kind of talking after the Carabao Cup final on Sunday. It goes back down the Klopp. So, yeah, I mean, this academy is really showing that it could be a force moving into the next couple of years.
Well, and I think it goes, Nick, when you're thinking of this kind of thing, you kind of go, you see it in all aspects of sports through high schools and this kind of stuff where you are playing a certain style of game, and if you are fortunate enough in the U.S. to have a middle school that's attached to your high school, and you want anything to kind of start, soon enough that you're going to have some kind of a winning situation, is you got to see the same kind of stuff happening from your middle school team that's happening from your high school team. And I think what we're seeing is the Liverpool Academy is running the same type of high press, whatever Liverpool is doing out there, the Academy's doing it. And therefore, we can plug these teenagers in and they know what to do.
Exactly that. I mean, it is. I couldn't have explained it any better. I mean, whatever. It's what the benefit of having academy kids come out and practice with the senior team. It's to see the intensity, but it's also to see the style of play. And you can see that obviously, the 4-3-3 is what I would assume all Liverpool teams use from the youth U10, or not U10, but from the youth U14 and up. They're probably instilling the 4-3-3 mentality, high press mentality. And then, of course, when you get into the aspect of playing against older men at this point in time, you would think they would maybe slow down, but these kids are not slowing down. I mean, they're just energized and ready to go.
Absolutely. And then, we've talked about this, Nick. The first half, Southampton comes out 27 seconds into the game. 27 seconds. They put a goal in. It was offside. But it's that type of thing that you see from Liverpool's defense early in games. And you had mentioned to me before that what you think happens is we try to get up into our defenders try to get up into the way we play very early in the game, and that makes us a little bit susceptible to some kind of a goal or a counter or something happening to us.
Yeah, I think this one's pretty self-explanatory. I think it's a hangover type of goal. I mean, again, it was rightly called offside, so you can't even really talk about it in full detail. But it was the wake up call post celebration that I think we needed. Because it was always going to be weird going to the Southampton game. Just what 2 days after the Carabao Cup win, 120-minute game, extra time, emotions, Wembley. It was always going to be weird to see not just the lineup, but how we come out as a team. Personally, I didn't even think Van Dijk was going to be even in the squad because he played 120 minutes on Sunday. Not that the goal was his fault by any means, but it was always going to be a hangover type of first 20, 15 minutes of the game. And we saw that in 20 seconds with a goal, which was, rightly called offsides. But yeah, I was not expecting that 20 seconds in, to be honest with you. I don't think anyone was, but it happened. Again, rightfully called offsides. But yeah, I think it was just after the celebrations, these players really didn't know how they were going to react and how Southampton was going to react. And then, maybe it was just a kick in the butt that we needed to move forward from there.
It's a this had the for me this had all the makings of what we like to call a trap game, which is a game where we're coming off all those emotions of Wembley. We're playing a Southampton team who is one level below us in the Championship League, not in the Premier League. And we're sitting here thinking, it's Southampton. And then they showed in the first half, not even beyond that goal, they were putting some really nice pressure on us. Kelleher had to step up on a shot from Mara, and he had to step up again within, pretty fast. It was happening fast, and he was stepping up for us. And I mean, it really, to me, and I think this has a lot to do with all the changes, but Liverpool was just not settling into the game. They just weren't, and it has to be difficult. 6 changes from the team on Sunday, and I mean, you're not even sure what you've played, Nicholas. You're not even sure who you got out there.
Yeah, no, to your point, I think, like I had mentioned, the first 30 minutes, you can even say, I know I mentioned 15, 20, but the first 30 minutes, I was honestly shocked that Southampton hadn't scored. I mean, I think it was
Absolutely,
just they
absolutely.
should have, in a sense. I mean, I think on their team bus ride back to Southampton, they're going to be kicking themselves because they could have went into the halftime. They could have went into the first half 1-1, 1-0 up, whatever the case may be, and they probably should have taken those chances. So we did get a little bit lucky in that regard. I think Kelleher, again, great performance from him in the first half. Kind of just going off how we performed in the Carabao Cup final as well. But if you're a Southampton player or fan, you're kind of just like shaking your head as how they didn't take those opportunities, because it would be a much different discussion that you and I are having right now had they taken one of those opportunities. Because who knows what the complexity of the game would have been like moving forward if they went up 1-0. But again, I think we grew into the game. Took us a while, obviously. I mean, like I said, 30 minutes was all Southampton, but we did eventually grow into the game.
Yes, and we, I don't. Cody Gakpo, got to put that name out there. Cody Gakpo. I don't know. He's kind of an enigma to me. I really don't know what I think of him. He kind of had a really nice 2022 World Cup for the Netherlands, scored some goals for the Netherlands. We jumped on him in the January transfer of 23. I don't know right now if Cody Gakpo fits. He actually should have scored in the first half. Not even going to talk about his second half, but he should have scored in the first half, and he just doesn't take his chances and finish the way I think that a senior player should finish. Thoughts?
Yeah, Dave, exactly. I agree to a lot of what you said. I think Cody Gagpo made his name in Qatar. In 2022, he made his name there. No one was really following him when he was playing for PSV in the Eredivisie because it's not really a followed league, throughout the world. There was a couple of rumored teams. United were in for him. Obviously, you had PSGs were in for him. I mean, the top clubs were rumored to be in for him. And then post World Cup, he did end up making the move to Liverpool, and I think we were excited at the time. I think the issue, right, and we think moving forward from when he made the Liverpool move to where he is now, I don't know if it's much of a confidence thing or it's not knowing his actual position in this Liverpool squad.
That you're on something here. Yep, I agree.
He's played countless positions for us
Yes.
because he's had to, obviously
Yes.
with injury crises, just figuring out where he can fit whenever we have, Darwin and Mo fit, Diaz fit, where does he fit in that front three? He's played at the 10, the attacking mid role, which I honestly think that's a failed experiment. That's probably his worst position for us. Is
oh my gosh, yes.
That
Please don't put him
mid
there.
position. Exactly. I think naturally he's a left winger. He likes to cut it on his right. But the problem is when you have him playing centrally, he doesn't seem to know when the right time to either take the shot is or hold the ball up or do these things that a true number 9 would do because he's not a true number 9. So he gets caught in between his own ideas, which you can kind of see out on the pitch when he's playing, is that he's caught up in his own world a little bit. And you can see that from the chances that he fluffed and missed today. Just from a standpoint of you're these kids in this lineup, Cody Gagpo, Harvey Elliott, Van Dijk, Tsimikas, the players that are the more senior players that are in the squad all the time, those are the kids, those are the players you kind of need to look up to get something done, right? So you're kind of looking at Gagpo and Harvey Elliott, like that's where the goals are going to come from for us today. Obviously, these are the guys, playing against Southampton. But it was weird. It was kind of the opposite of that, right? So when you dissected the game further, I mean, we'll go into the goal scorers, but Louis Kumis, James McConnell, Bobby Clark, Jaden Dans, all these kids, they try to look up to somebody on the field. Who's working the hardest, who's going to provide for Liverpool, who's going to, and then it becomes contagious around the pitch and around the rest of the players. We didn't see that from Gagpo today.
No.
And it's worrisome because it was against a lesser opponent in Southampton, right?
Yes.
If you can't do it against Southampton, what's to say he's going to do it against Nottingham Forest on Saturday, against City in a week or in 2 weeks? I mean, I don't know where I stand on Cody Gagpo because he has his moments, but man, when he's off his game, he just doesn't look good. And the problem is for him is that he's 6'4", 6'3", so when he's bad, he's noticeable.
He can't hide. He can't go out there and hide. And to me, it's funny. You made a comment just a minute ago when you were talking about Harvey Elliott being a senior player. Harvey Elliott is 20 years old.
Yeah, I mean, it's a good
20.
It's a good point.
And we're sitting here going, we're seeing goals from Harvey, and he's 20. And Harvey, to his heartbeat, prior to Louis Kumas's goal, Harvey Elliott had a heck of a hit on a ball that really gave the keeper some trouble. And then pretty much right off of that was Kumas's, senior debut goal. And he did it in the 44th minute, and he got an assist from Bobby Clark. So you had two 18-year-olds on that goal that put us ahead going into half. And wow, that took a lot of pressure off of Liverpool in general. The whole team, that took a lot of pressure off, because then, Southampton had to come out in the game and really try to go after the game. And to be honest with you, if we'd had half of the team that we could field before injuries, they could never have played that game against us. We'd have beat them 10-0.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it's to your point about the senior player. I generally think of senior players as the ones that are just in the squad from the beginning of the season, right? So I guess
Yes,
that's the funny thing about Harvey Elliott, right? Is that he's 20, but when Liverpool releases their lineups every weekend in the Premier League, Europa League, whatever competition, you expect to see Harvey at least on the bench. So it is a funny point. I mean, it's just the Louis Kumas goal, right? I mean, it just again shows how mature these kids are on the field. I mean, they're playing against. I mean, Southampton. You would think that someone would try to get it. I mean, I don't even know how to explain it in proper terms, but you would think someone would try to at least put a leg out for that shot, which is what they did. But it didn't really matter. I mean, yeah, there was a deflection on the goal, but the way Kumas was able to create his space for that shot, I mean, it showed signs of maturity for a kid that's 18 years old. I mean, 18, a Bobby Clark assist to a Louis Kumas goal, Anfield under the lights. I mean, stories that they probably dream of since they were kids.
absolutely. I think that is a really good observation there. So we go into halftime. Liverpool had 53% possession on the ball. And the shots were equal at 6-6, and shots on target were equal at 2-2. So stat line, we did have a little bit more possession. But really, Southampton, they weren't going away. And they kind of showed that in the first half. Coming out for me, Southampton didn't take advantage of the chances that they had, and they were punished by a Liverpool team who knows how to do. They know what they're doing and how they're going to play the game. Does that make sense? Am I making any sense with that,
Yeah,
Nick?
no, absolutely. I think that once the first goal went in, before the end of the first half, the game then opened up. Obviously, from a Southampton point of view, they had to go and chase the game, so it opened up in their end. And the hand that plays into is Liverpool's, right? When the game becomes more free flowing, it's going to be Liverpool, 9 times out of 10 to win that battle when the game becomes free flowing. And it's just funny because the game is free flowing and the tone is being set by teenagers. You know what
Yes.
I mean? So
Yes.
it's free flowing, but some of the movements that we were making, the one touch passes here and there. I mean, these kids look like they just have a sixth sense of where they're going to be next, and of course that's probably from their time playing together in the academy. But it just once that second half started and the way Liverpool had started, and obviously we'll get into the goals later, but the way the second half started, I didn't even think that. I thought it was, Southampton may as well not even show up for the second half. I mean, Southampton created their opportunities in the second half, but it just the way the game was being played, Liverpool was never going to lose that game, and then we just went on and put them to bed.
Absolutely. And I do agree with that. I think when the goal came in, I think it was pretty much kind of Liverpool's game to take. It was just sitting there. It was ready for us to just control and get out of there with a victory. It really, to me, that's the way. After that goal came in, there was no more pressure. I didn't think.
Yeah, exactly. And I mean,
Yeah.
obviously then the subs come in, and one of those subs being Jaden Dan's, which is we can get into him a little bit more, but yeah, I think you're exactly right. I mean, the second half was more about nursing the lead and how we can go about getting the second goal to really put it to bed, and that's exactly what we did. We got the
Yep.
second happened, and then really put the game to bed with the third. And we can talk about what we want to talk about, but I mean, the name is Jaden Dans. I mean, this kid. I'll let you talk more on him, Dave, before I go in on what I think of him.
Well, I just wanted to kind of go to what, we have a little bit, we have loose outlines of what we're doing here on Kopites Calling, but, I just kind of wanted to see who your standout player of the first half was.
Yeah, no, I think standout player in my eyes of the first half. It's tough, right? Because it's hard to judge these kids from such the small scale we've seen them so far. But I got to give it to Louis Kumis just because scoring his first goal in Anfield on his debut. I mean, yeah,
That
maybe
makes total sense.
it may not, and even then, like his overall game before the goal, you couldn't really say he was doing too much. But what he was doing was causing problems, right? Yeah, I mean, obviously Southampton was able to kind of deal with him until his goal, but he was always able to cause issues to their back line. And I think you get a kid like that coming in, and again, it really is one of those things you can even, make a movie about, write a story about. It's like this,
Sure.
he's going home tonight, and his parents are like, "Well, what did you do today?" He's like, "I scored at Anfield today, mom."
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I'm sure they were there in the stands, but it's really
You certainly hope so.
yeah,
My son's
exactly.
playing.
Yeah, exactly. So that's my first half man of the match. Apologies for getting a little ahead of ourselves to go into the second half, but that is my first half man of the match. Curious to hear who yours is.
Um, just to me, just a standout performance, kept us in the game. Cameron Kelleher, just
Yeah,
just no question for me. This guy, since he's stepped in for Allison due to Allison's injury, this guy has, I don't know, he's a player now. If I'm any other team, I'm sitting there going, I want Kelleher on my squad. And honestly, Nick, it's making me nervous because I think this guy, with the talent that he has, is not going to be happy to just be behind Allison and play in the Carabao Cup games and play in the FA Cup games. I think this young man deserves to be playing on a full-time basis. He has proven it to me. He has taken me every time we've had to put him in. He has done what he does. And today he again in the first half made, I don't know, 2-3 saves that were just incredible. One of them was
yeah,
one-on-one.
yeah. Again, I think since he's come in this short instance with Allison out. I think you and I both were obviously skeptical because he's had, he has. I do want to give him praise, but he has had bad games for Liverpool, right?
Yes,
And that's
but Allison has too.
exactly. And Allison has, all keepers have. So I'm not. But it's easier to judge a backup keeper on his bad games because he plays fewer games. You know what I mean?
Yes,
So it very much is. There's a finite amount of games he plays per season. So the criteria for him being a good performer is smaller, right?
yes,
We have a smaller scale to judge him on.
yes,
So he has had his poor games, but to your point, I have to give him credit, because since I think we saw it in the Carabao Cup final, I think we saw
wow,
what his confidence can do for him,
wow,
uh, and it did lead into today against Southampton. I mean, I bet he was thinking that he wasn't going to be as busy as he was today against Southampton, but then he should have realized that the team that was in front of him isn't Van Dijk, Kanate, Trent,
right,
Robertson. It's not the
right,
traditional 11 that you would see from
right.
Liverpool. So unfortunately for that, it was a busier day for him.
Yes, it
But
was.
I agree. I mean, he's made the right saves at the right times, and he's made the right decisions at the right times for those saves.
Yes, absolutely. I there's just, I watch him and I just feel like he is going to make the save that we need. And it's weird to me because, sometimes you're like, when you see something happening and there's a keeper back there, you're like going, oh, I think that's going to be a problem. But when I'm watching Kelleher, at least these last few games, I'm going, he's got that. He's got
Right.
that.
Yeah.
He's gonna make that save look routine.
Yeah,
And
and
to
not
me,
to
that's a good keeper who can make a save look routine, and he's doing it all the time.
yeah, and not to I mean, not to, I don't mean to we're giving his praises again, but I don't but the good thing about his performances recently as well is that if he does, so let's say the summer comes around and he does feel like he's good enough to go start somewhere, which yeah, to your point, I think he is. His good performances, you know what that's doing for his price tag? Making it go up.
Boom.
Making it
Yep.
go up. You'd be crazy to think if he wants to leave in the summer, we should be able to get at least 30 million for him, considering today's market with players, maybe 25 at the lowest. But if he's staying somewhere in the Premier League, I think he could go to a team that maybe is on the lower half of the table. Who knows? Or if he's happy to still be a backup to Allison, better for Liverpool.
Yes. Yeah. And then, we kind of get into the second half starting. And the first thing I noticed in the second half was Virgil van Dijk is not on the field. My first thought, I'm sure it might have been yours as well, is he hurt? Oh my goodness, is he hurt? Well, it turns out he wasn't hurt. Turns out that they had already worked out that Konate was going to come in second half. And it was something that they had already determined. And so Konate comes on and immediately has an impact. He immediately makes some phenomenal defensive plays and kind of kept us at 1-0. I mean, he really did.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think to your point, I think it was always pre-planned because when I even saw Van Dijk on the team sheet in the 11, I was like, well, why? He played 120 minutes, and I was, of course, me and you start thinking, we don't want to be risking players when we don't have to. We
Right.
also want to stay in the FA Cup because it is a very prestigious trophy. So I
Right.
understand you want to have your captain out there. So I think it was a very, very smart move. I'm curious, had it still been 0-0, if they went against that plan and he would have started in the second half, maybe, but we were up 1-0. So Konate, and then you have Konate come in, and I think he's just a criminally underrated center back, Ibrahim Konate, and I think people don't give him credit because Van Dijk's there, right? And I hate to say that, but it's like, oh, who's the guy? Konate has sometimes this season had better games than Van Dijk if people were watching him closely, right? I mean, he starts for France. He started every game for France at the World Cup. Um, you know, 2 years ago in the Champions League final against Real Madrid, he was our best player. We lost that game, but
Yes.
Konate was our best player.
Yes. He really was.
I can't say enough good things about him. The only issue, unfortunately, and it must be just a habit when people sign for Liverpool, is that he has a kind of a weird injury record to him. Konate does. So again, it's good that we got him on the field for 45 minutes. You'd think this means going into the Forest game on Saturday. Excuse me. It's going to be Van Dijk and Konate starting at center backs, right? They get a little bit of a run out, 45 minutes each, and then they both start on Saturday.
Right. I agree. I think that's where we're heading with this. I also agree with everything you were saying about Konate. I think this guy he's so incredibly capable of stepping up to the levels that he has for Liverpool. He does it all the time. I I I I don't even. I'm not going to say I'm not worried when I see him. I think he's always going to do the right thing on the pitch, and he's surprisingly fast. I was surprised he was getting back, and I'm like, well, wow, this dude is picking up some speed right now, and I just didn't know he was as fast as he is.
Yeah, no, I think he's fast, but the thing I like about Konate, and I mean, I never played center back, but obviously, like I know the position of seeing, me and you have watched great center backs over the years. I think the thing that him and Van Dijk do very, very well is their timing. when it comes to the right time to make the challenge, right time to press, to not press when it comes to pressing the forward. We'll give him space, then we'll close down his space at this moment. And when you're able to do that with quick feet, it takes 2 seconds to adjust and then get into there, basically get in, stuck in, and make a tackle. It really is the difference, right? Because, being a forward, sometimes you may think that the center back, is so out of it. You're like, all right, well, like he's
Hmm.
giving me all the space, I'm going to shoot. Well, then
Hmm.
in 2 seconds, they're in front of you. You know what I mean?
Yes.
And I think that's something that Kanate does extremely well, something that Van Dijk has made his living off of being the best center back in the world for many years, is that as well. Their timing is very, very good on when they decide they're going to tackle, when they decide they're not going to tackle, and maybe give them a little space. And it leaves the forward to kind of second guess themselves.
That's a great, yes, that's a great point. That's a great point. And then we move on and we're looking at some, I really thought, Nick, that we were going to see the subs that I thought was going to come in. The first sub that I thought that was going to come in besides Konate. I thought we'd see Diaz and McAllister. I was a little surprised when I saw McAllister and Jaden Dans. I was thinking we might give Diaz a little bit of run, just, the same way we did with Virgil, preparing for our game on Saturday. So when Dan's came in, I'm like, curious. I'm curious about this. Well, what does Dan's do? He does nothing but scores a brace. He scores 2 goals. He scores 2 goals. And I'm like, wow. I mean, you made the point earlier. You can't write that. I mean, if you wrote that in a Hallmark movie script, everybody they'd think it was so sappy that nobody'd want to watch the daggone thing. But he scores 2 goals in Anfield.
Yeah, I mean, I tell you what, who should be clenching their fists a little bit is Cody Gagpo.
Absolutely.
And I hate to say this. I mean, we're Liverpool supporters, or we support whoever's out there, but for a kid like that to come on and to have those two extremely composed finishes, I mean, the first one, you would have thought he was, I don't know, Harry Kane out there. I mean, to chip a goalkeeper when you're a young kid like that, and to even have the confidence to do that, he didn't need to, right? He could have went far post. Far post was available, but he saw what the keeper was giving him. He's like, I'm just going to think this over you. Thank you very much. I'll see you later when I'm celebrating. I mean, the timing of the pass from Harvey Elliott as well. I want to give him his shout out there. I mean, the timing of that through pass to Dan's was couldn't have asked for better weight on the pass, better timing of the pass, better, great timing of the run from Dan's. I mean, that finish is just sometimes when you're a spectator, right, you kind of prefer those finishes. I mean, everyone loves the screamers, the volleys, the extremely well timed shots and power behind them. But something like that, I mean, that's why they call it the beautiful game, right? Not to get sentimental, but stuff
Yes.
like that. I mean, it really is stuff like
Yes.
that. And it's then you go into a second goal, which I'll let you, Dave, kind of chime in on the second goal first before I give my thoughts on it.
Well, I mean, I think I just want to step back for just 1 second. We're trying to make this a little bit of, trying to be aware of what we're doing here as far as time. But if we the 3 goals, 2 goals by Dan's, one by Kumas, goals were scored by 18-year-olds. Think about that for a second. Just think about that for a second. Plus, we had a 20-year-old with an assist. We had another 18-year-old with an assist in Bobby Clark, who I love Bobby Clark's game. Got to just, kind of go out on a little tangent here and say, I love Bobby Clark's game. That kid's aggressive. And I like the way he goes at a game.
Yeah, no, 100%. I think and we've used him obviously since the Luton game, and we used him at Wembley as well. I mean, it's a thing with these kids, right? I mean, and when you think back to, I mean, they're 18 years old, but I mean, they're always ready. They have the stamina to run forever, right? I mean, how many times you think back to, it's not similar, but whenever I played, travel soccer, we'd have 2 games in a day, right? On a Saturday at a tournament, you have 2 games in a day, turn right around, semifinals, finals on a Sunday. That's the same sort of mentality, right? These kids have. Like they know they can run. They know they can work their butts off, for as long as they can go. What I worry about, right, is how hard they're working, and then they're going against stronger, fitter players in
Yes.
Southampton or whoever. that's then susceptible to an injury. They've kind of worked themselves into getting hurt, but we didn't see that, right? I mean, that's the funny thing is that I think I worry about it because of what happened to Bajcetic last year. I mean,
Yes.
we rushed Stefan Bajcetic into this first team, and when he got into the first team, I mean, I was nothing but impressed with him, but because he was still growing,
Yes.
as a human being, he was still going through his adolescence. His muscles aren't really where they are. He's going through a lot of bodily changes. When you throw him up against a 25-year-old, 26-year-old, you can kind of get roughed up, and it can kind of, if you get a wrong injury, you can be out for a while, which is exactly what happened to Bicep because
Yes.
their bodies are still growing while they're playing. So
Right.
I kind of went off on a tangent there as well. But again, the bigger point is that never happened today. They
Right.
just continually just ran and ran and ran and never
Right.
stopped.
Right. So Dan's second goal, I just, I mean, it's the kind of goal that a player in the 9 position wants to score.
Predator. It was
Yeah.
instincts. It was the predatory
Yeah.
instincts in the box. You have to be
Yeah.
the first to the ball if you want to score the goal. I
Absolutely.
mean, that Southampton player had no idea where he was, and he was like, "Well,
None.
see you later. See you later. I'm right here tapping the ball into the net, and we're
Absolutely.
out of here." I mean, it's the anticipation he provided on that goal. I mean, again, those are instincts that you can't really teach as a 9, as a goal scorer. Those are just things that you're like, screw you guys, I'm scoring, and then exactly
Right.
that. I mean, he did just that. And again, I mean, I don't mean to keep calling him out, but Gagpo, right? I mean, in my opinion now, right? Because of what Dan showed us today, it'd be crazy not to think he doesn't get at least some minutes against Forest on Saturday, right?
I think he
I
has
don't
to
know.
get some minutes, and to me, if you have Darwin fit, if you have these guys back, I think Gakpo is the person. To me, I wrote down in notes, he's my odd man out. I just don't know if he's a fit. He doesn't
Yeah,
fit for me.
agreed. I think I mean, the only time I knew he fit is whenever he scored 2 goals against Man United last season when we killed
Yeah,
them 7-0.
yeah, yeah,
But since then, I haven't seen that same player.
yeah.
Jaden Dan's, I mean, everything he did going forward to create opportunities for himself is what you want out of a 9, right? I
Right,
mean, his runs were timed perfectly.
right,
Um, his shots he was getting off were timed perfectly. The
right.
passes he was making to try to set up some of his other teammates. Again, we can keep singing his praises. I mean, I know he's only played 3 games, right? I mean, so we'll see how we can keep the longevity of it. But you got to just be excited about him.
Yes, yes. And then we just go. Harvey Elliott comes off. Again, I just want to briefly touch on this. Harvey Elliott comes off, and we bring on Trey Naoni, number 98 in your program. Number 98 in your program, 16 years old. We always joke around, hey, his mom told him to be home when the street lights come on. I mean, this kid is 16 years old. What? If he was in the U.S., he's a sophomore in high school? I mean,
Yeah,
let's be honest. This kid, 16, goes on the pitch at Anfield in an FA Cup 5th round game. I mean,
yeah, yeah. I mean, I
he
guess it
got
was.
bossed around a little bit. But that's
Yeah,
okay.
exactly that. It was unfortunate for him, right? Well, actually, not. It was not unfortunate for him. It was fortunate for him that he got a chance to make his debut at Anfield. We're 3-0 up, so it's not like he's coming on into a high tense situation where we're kind of relying on him. Like, hey, kid, go do a job for us. You have all this hype. Let's see if you can back it up. So I think the fact that we were up 3-0, you couldn't really see the mistakes he was making,
Right.
but he did. But he did make a couple of mistakes, right? I mean,
He
he's
did.
16 years old, so it's like, who are we to talk about that, right? I mean, we're
Yeah.
just 2 guys talking about Liverpool, but he did kind of get bossed up a little bit. But I don't think it really mattered, right?
It didn't matter.
I think what Klopp was doing there is to be like, I have this kid on the bench, and it was also good to see Cade Gordon get back. I mean, Cade
It
Gordon had
was.
struggled with injury. I mean, Cade Gordon was our guy that we thought was going to progress, but he has some injury problems the past
Yeah.
couple of years because Cade Gordon scored against forget the name of the lower league team in the FA Cup 2 years ago, and it was at Anfield. So we were like, oh, we got a gem on our hands, and unfortunately,
Yeah.
some injuries killed him. So it was good to see him get a run out as well. But back to Neoni, I mean, again, it was great because you can't really call out his mistakes as being anything big, right? Because we were up 3-0. So it's like his mistakes were just little small things because he's
Right.
just 16 years old,
He
so
he was able to
it's hard.
for me. He was able to get minutes in a game that was already determined that it was over. You know what I mean? We'd
Exactly.
already won it. So again, kudos to Klopp. There's just nothing else to say but kudos to Klopp. And then, we get into the 3-0 final. That's what it was. The final stats ended up being, possession was fairly similar to what it was in the first half, 52%, I'm sorry, for Liverpool. 18 shots to their 12, and we had 6 on target, and they had 3. So standout player for you for the game, Nick?
Well, yeah, I guess it's the day of the kids, as we've been. I guess may want to title. We may want to title this episode, AXA Academy instead of the Southampton game. It's going to be Jaden Dance. I mean, this guy. I mean, wow. I mean, I think we'd be crazy not to use him on Saturday, like I had said. And I mean that chip goal won me over. I mean, the
Yep.
fact that
Yep.
he had that in his locker at this
Yep.
young age, you can't ask for much more. So I
Absolutely.
had 2 goals. Again, I'm excited about him. Very excited about him. So yeah, that's my standout performer is Jaden Dance.
There's just I was writing down some notes and I was sitting here going, who's it going to be? It has to be Dance. It has to be Dance for me as well. To do that, to score a brace in a game, again, FA Cup 5th round game. We're going into the quarterfinals now, and this guy puts 2 goals in for us. Has to be him. No other. Although that being said, I do want to just give a shout out to a couple players that I thought really kind of shone for me. Shown, is that a word, Nick? I'm not sure. Anyway,
They shown something.
they they showed me something. Maybe that's
Yeah,
the word.
yeah.
I'm going to go with Harvey Elliott. I thought
Yeah.
Harvey Elliott was really good. I'm going to go with Bobby Clark, and I'm going to go with Joe Gomez in that inverted kind of role that Trent's been kind of playing. I thought Joe, again, he was a little awkward early in the game for me, but he kind of grew into that game, and I thought Joe Gomez put in a shift today, and I was really happy to see it because he gets a lot of knocks from people.
Yeah, no, I know we kind of I know we want to stay on track to kind of wrap this up here shortly. So I agree with what you said in terms of I do want to shout out those players as well, specifically Gomez, because the funny thing about Joe Gomez and we kind of see this now in a lot of Liverpool games is that when he gets into advanced positions because he's never scored a senior goal, the Anfield crowd is yelling shoot
Yeah,
shoot as much as they can
yeah,
and there was one in the first half I was thinking on, they were yelling at him to shoot, and I think that thing went out of the park. I think it went out of the
yeah,
stadium.
yeah,
It hit some poor person's car in the
yeah.
parking lot
It's still
because it was
traveling
nowhere.
down the street around
Exactly,
Liverpool,
exactly. I mean,
Anfield Road.
it ended up at the Anfield shot outside the arena. So, but it's great because Gomez has been that player all season for us. He's kind of just taken up these positions that aren't his natural position as center back, and hasn't really put a foot wrong in any of them.
I
So
agree.
I do want to give a special shout out to him as well. I mean, Harvey
Good.
Elliott, great assist to Dan's, but yeah, Joe Gomez he's been a very, very important player for us this season because he's been able to go into these not so natural positions and do a job for us.
Absolutely. And then, here we are, Nick. We're back to the Premier League on Saturday. We have Nottingham Forest at Nottingham. Nothing less than 3 points. We can't, dropping points at this point in time with City behind us at 59 and Arsenal 2 back at 58. There is nothing to do but do it on Saturday and go out there and get the 3 points. We have to.
100%.
Yep.
Couldn't agree more.
Yep. So again, for Kopites Calling, we certainly want to thank you guys for checking us out, listening to us, and speaking for Nick right now. As always, you'll never walk alone.
Come on, you Reds.